better for hearing you.
Oh, thank you. Very beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so we are now on air, meaning this is being recorded on YouTube for later viewing. So as you know, if there are any questions you would like to share, feel free at any point in time to do so.
Magdi?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, this is John.
Hello, John.
Hello, John.
There is an echo, and it's a little bit better now.
Okay.
But
Self-shining. Can you elaborate on that for me, please?
okay.
Okay.
So, if you look at your experience right now, and we are contemplating the self-shining. So, we don't want to have a theoretical discourse about self-shining and write a 10-page dissertation about the self-shining. That's not of much interest. So we're going to go to our direct experience right now, yes? Whatever it is. So we go to just whatever is happening right now, just what's going on right now. And we ask ourselves, what is truly going on right now? What is it that is shining? Now, you could consider every phenomenal event to be magical, to have a magical quality, like perceiving this perception, this distinguishing the colors and the shapes, and it's quite magical, isn't it? When we are looking freshly, there is a magical quality. Not just what is appearing, which is quite amazing, but also there is the magic of perception, the magic of awareness, the wonder of awareness. So we could say that there are two dimensions to this, the shining of the self. There is the self shining as forms, appearing as forms, as thoughts, as perceptions, appearing as sensations. But what is it that allows, let's say, this perception? There is something that is beyond the perception. Let's call it a recognition or a knowingness or an awareness or beingness that is key to all perceptions. So there is the magic or the shining of the perception itself, and there is the light of awareness, the light of consciousness that is not perceived, but yet without it the perceptions would not be. It's like the metaphor of the sun shining on the moon. There is the shining of the moon, which is a form. The moon does not shine of its own, but yet it appears to shine. The moon appears, and it appears due to the shining of the sun, which is beyond the shining of the moon. So in terms of the self shining, the self shines beyond the forms, because the self, meaning awareness, if you go to your experience right now, is not something that you perceive via your senses. But yet, awareness is that through which and by which and within which all perceptions are possible. So in terms of your question about the self shining, the self shines as forms, and also the self shines beyond the forms. But it is the self that shines beyond the form that allows the shining of the forms. The shining of the forms is only possible due to the awareness, to the consciousness, due to the self, the reality that is beyond the forms. And what matters in your question, John, is not to understand what I am saying, but to come to the experience of yourself, which is the reality of your experience, as consciousness. To notice the reality of your experience as consciousness, which is the shining light of consciousness. And then you can contemplate that all the forms that you perceive them via consciousness. So it is consciousness that perceives. And whatever consciousness is perceiving, it is perceiving at zero distance of itself. Meaning, the thought that arises to you, or the perception that arises to you, arises as consciousness. So it is consciousness that, as if it's consciousness that appears as a form, if one puts it that way. Because it's really not completely correct to speak of consciousness appearing as, because there aren't two realities. It's like in your night dream, you're dreaming of all sorts of forms, but all these forms that you are dreaming, they have no separate reality from yourself, the dreamer. They are intimately what you are. So anyways, that's how I'm addressing your question. If there is further question to follow, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Magdi.
Yeah, I was asking because reading a post of yours that was talking about love and self-shining and so forth and so on, or it manifests in time and space, but it is not time and space, and so forth and so on. But it reminded me of the other things that I've read, and today my experience was like it was like it appeared to be revealed, like, and it was like a silence, yet it was shining, and it was I, even without the I, it was just complete uh, no thing and silence, and it was very. There was no thought with it because it wasn't even like. So anyway, so afterwards, thought came and said, that must be what self-shining is. And I think you're saying somewhat like that. And so it is I
Yes,
who is shining.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The self is I, is the ultimate I. There's only one I, the reality of the self. Yes, it is I as consciousness shining. So it is consciousness as eternally shining. And our experience of that is constant. We have an uninterrupted experience of I, which is an uninterrupted experience of the light of consciousness, the shining light of consciousness. Yes, that is. Now we may overlook that. We may overlook this experience and turn our attention to in a different direction. That's even when we turn our attention in a different direction, it is only possible, any perception, any direction that you turn your attention to, the light of consciousness is shining. You see, even upon your identification with the body-mind, there is a sensation, an unhappy sensation, a contraction within the space. But that contraction appears via the light of consciousness. But what's very lovely in how you are describing the silence and the stillness. That is the experience of the light of consciousness happily shining in the pink hue of consciousness, a happy, unobstructed, the light of consciousness being unobstructed, no obstacles to it. So yes, that is the pure I. So there is the I, meaning the I am, which is the unobstructed light of consciousness. And then there is the I am a person, I am a form, I am some object. Whenever the I attaches itself to a form, then there is an unhappy impression that arises. And it's unnecessary. Once we come to the understanding that it's unnecessary, then it might take us a while, but we release that tendency. The habit of being in me and trying to improve myself and trying to have a happy life and a happy me, we release that tendency. It might take us a while to do that because there are habits in the body mind. The body mind is very sensitive and picks up easily certain habits. But once there is an understanding that the I am, just the pure I am, is still silent, blissful, peaceful, and happy, then the adjective I am this person, I am this man, I am this woman releases out of the space.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Okay, John. Hello, Isaac. Hey, hello, Isaac. So, Isaac, you're right. What about responsibility? Is it necessary? It feels like a heavy burden. Heavy burden. One should or must do something. So Isaac, I like to look at responsibility as being a proper response. There is a proper response to various situations. The proper response may not be clear to us immediately. We may in certain occasions need to ponder what is the proper response. But when we are responding to a situation out of the sense of there being an imminent danger or is a pressing sense that I need or I must respond, or else something may be at stake for me. It is helpful to ask yourself, what is this me that is feeling this sense of threat or this sense of urgency? Now, I am not talking about a situation where there may be actual physical situation where you need to get out of the way of a truck that's driving down the road coming towards you while you are crossing the street. I am talking about the sense of urgency to do something to preserve me or to safeguard me or to better manage me. This me identity that we often sort of take it at face value, we take it for granted without having done contemplation or inquiry into it. So as you are contemplating what is the proper response, you have to at the same time be contemplating whether there is a sense of personal threat or personal urgency, and what is this person, what is the reality of this person that keeps nagging us, keeps calling for attention and calling for care and calling for, that sort of spoils the party, you know, it spoils the peace. When you ask yourself, what is this me, you will find that you just have a bunch of memories and thoughts and sensations and stories, but you won't find an actual me. What you will find instead, if you examine correctly, you will find I. you will always find I, can always depend on I, because it is I that asks this question, what is this me? It is always I. And that is not perceived as a thought or as a sensation, but it's known as the reality of consciousness. We know we are conscious. And so once you come to, in that question, in that contemplation of what is this me that is feeling that this sense of urgency and I must act responsibly. So I ask myself, what is it that feels like this I must act responsibly? What does that mean? What is this me? And we find no me. You come to all bunch of stories and tales that keep changing. They're like moods. And so you find it's like when you're acting out of a mood, you're acting out of a changing, shifting thoughts and feelings. And then there is uncertainty about what was the correct action, because it is not coming from a stable, steady place. And the only stable, steady place in your experience is consciousness. So acting responsibly, meaning responding correctly, the response has to come from consciousness. And when consciousness responds, it looks at a situation and it contemplates the situation and it responds. It responds in a way that takes in account everybody and everything. It does not only take in account my feelings and my story and my condition. It takes in account the entire situation, everybody involved. It's a broader it's embracing. It's an embrace, and of course, then there is the acting responsibly, acting fairly. When you are acting fairly, you are dividing the pie into equal pieces to whoever is around. You say, okay, wait a minute. We have 3 people here and they all need to celebrate. So let's celebrate fairly, means as equally as it's possible given the situation. So the concept of fairness and the acting from the principle of fairness, you consider the other as yourself. It is you, the other is you. And you do your best to include them in your response without shorting yourself, without short-handing yourself. So it's not a sacrifice, it's not Mother Teresa, it's not that.
Short-changing.
Short-changing, thank you, short-changing. Short-changing. So yes, of course, Mother Teresa is a very, very beautiful person. She was led following her heart, following her love. I'm just addressing the question from a different perspective. If you are called to sacrifice yourself, and it's really speaking to you from a place of beauty and love, then of course that's your path. So then you do that. But fairness is fairness towards everybody, including yourself. I'm not sure if I completely address your question, Isaac. No, it feels like a heavy burden. No, don't. one should or must do something. No. The only should or must doesn't arise from love. It arises from being a little child and being brought up. You should, you must, etc. You know, it arises from our conditioning. We all know that, and unfortunately, we even teach our children that, which is, you know, we have to be really watchful how we are with our children, and it's the sense that the parents have that sometimes that something is gonna happen to them if their kids don't do this or that, so they push their children out of their own fear. Without, it doesn't come from a place of love and contemplation. It comes from self-love, loving myself, loving this me as a person, loving my family, my so the children are an extension of me. And then we inherit that, you see. I must do this and should do that. No, the contemplation and life is about love. It's about love, peace, happiness, joy. So when you are feeling that you must or you should do something, and that you are experiencing a heavy burden, you need to pause. You need to pause, and you don't buy these goods. Don't go for it. Don't go for it. This is an old pattern, you know, to feel the burden, I must do this for my parents, for my country, for my family, whatever. These are old patterns that are part of the me impression. Me, my family, my work, my partner. It's still not, it's not the happiness. In the happiness, you are open, and everybody is welcome in your space. You see, it's like that. And there isn't like a should or shouldn't. It's not like that. It's love. We are this love. We are this. Our natural self is love, is beauty, is openness, is freedom and joy. So it's not me with the burdens in life, and I need to do this and do that, and if not, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? It's not like that. So you turn your attention to just the presence. Innate, it's an innate, open field of presence. It's always there. You turn attention to it, and you recognize the openness of being. And it's very sweet. It's peaceful. It's sweet. I think John was talking about it a minute ago. The stillness and the silence and the peace. That's our true self. Unfortunately, for some reason, we experience it only on occasion. But it's your gift from God. You can experience it 24/7. You don't need to get away from it and go into your stories, into your conditions, into your societal stories, your teachers, your parents, your neighbors. You don't need to do that. I know that it's all around you, but it doesn't touch you. You can be like just untouched by that. Like the weather, you're untouched by the weather. Sometimes when it's raining really hard, you stay indoor. So sometimes when there's a lot of nonsense around you, you just, you shut off your phone. You don't need to engage with every craziness that's coming at you. No. Even though it's around you, it doesn't touch you. You don't need to answer every call. There's a lot of also self-judgment that is unnecessary. And of course, we judge each other and other people to judge us. But we don't need to do that. And other people judging us, that's their business. But self-judging and judging others, that's very unhappy. It's separative. I mean, we do a lot of it like habitually, like gossip, but it's not a wise thing to do. We carry these burdens, guilt. We do the whole guilt. I should have, and why didn't I? And I must do this and I must do that. No, you just do your best in every situation, that's all. And you let it go. You don't need to carry all the luggage. And it may arise sometimes feelings of guilt, or if disappointed somebody, it may arise, because the body remembers these things. Sometimes something triggers these feelings to arise. And you can just watch them happening. Of course, they may not be very sweet. So what? You just allow them to release in the space. Not everything has to be sweet, The sweetness doesn't belong in what arises. The sweetness is the sweetness of the self, the sweetness of consciousness. So when a certain feeling arises, you allow it to arise in the space. It's basically, at some level, it's just a bodily sensation. You recognize it, and of course, we're not in the repair business, especially we're not trying to repair the past, because if you try to repair the past, you gotta go back thousands of years in the past, and there are tons of things there. But they're all stories and images and thoughts. Because in fact, there is no past. It's just a presence. It's just presence. That's the reality, presence. I mean, the mind labels things past, and this happened and that happened. But these are just thoughts, current thoughts arising right now. They're not, there is no real past. The reality is the reality of consciousness, and that's where the love and the beauty is. And consciousness is completely free. It's a freedom. It's the freedom. And nothing can augment it or diminish it, you see. So which means the I am, the I. Nothing augments or diminishes the I. I is the ultimate reality, the reality of consciousness. So there is nothing outside of it that can come to augment it or that can take something away from it. It's only one reality, which is the reality of the self, which is love, peace, beauty, happiness, and freedom, joy, bliss. So the bliss of the self, the I am. So the proper response comes from the bliss of the self, which is universal love. Okay, thank you for your question, Isaac. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Very lovely. Hello, Ananda. Ananda, you're right. Could you give us another item for contemplation of seemingly objective stuff being actually myself? Of course. Of course, you want to. So the question is, give us another term for contemplation. Oh, another term for contemplation of seemingly objective stuff being actually myself. Okay, I had read the question. Term.
Well, you know, we talk about contemplation often, and I love the word contemplate. I love the word contemplation. But I'm just thinking sometimes I don't know. And in the second part of my question, in other words,
how to relate to the seeming dualism of subject perceiving object.
Yeah. I mean, in a real, in the way that it neutralizes or eliminates the ignorance part of it.
Yeah, a subject observing an object. Let's say that there is a subject observing an object. What knows that?
It's always I, or it's awareness knows it.
So if there is a subject observing an object, and I know that I, awareness, is observing that or knows that, who cares? I don't care about objects observing objects. Subjects can observe objects all they want. What do I care? Really? I mean, I know myself. I know that I am I. So I watch and I see a lion observing a gazelle. That's a subject observing an object. A hungry subject observing an equally hungry object.
A soon-to-be frightened object.
One is a predator and one is a prey. And I'm watching that, so the subject runs after the object, grabs the object and eats it. So what? Now, but we prefaced this conversation by saying, what is it that knows that? That the subject is observing an object. So that was a key question.
Yes.
What is it that knows that? So I know that. I, consciousness, whatever, I know that. Okay, good. Then I know I. I know I, and then there is 10 subjects and 18 objects. Okay. Okay. Now, let me take it a step further. So, there is a subject observing an object, and I know that. I am the knowingness of this subject observing an object, yes? I can ask myself, that's when we come to the contemplation, where is this subject and where are the subject and object? So I ask myself, it's a question from I to I. So I ask myself, where, I'm just curious, you know, obviously I see a subject and an object, where are they? So I ask myself, where are they? So I say, okay, they are out there in the field. This is maybe the first question that comes to mind, the first answer that comes to mind.
They're in the Serengeti.
They are in the Serengeti. Very good. They are in the Serengeti. Then I ask myself, because I am the knower, I am the perceiver, let's say, or the knowingness. Ask myself, well, where is the Serengeti? Yes, where is the Serengeti where the subject and the object are? Yes. Ask myself, where is the Serengeti? So I continue this sort of questioning, and if this questioning is thorough and I'm serious about getting a real answer, not some borrowed answer, or Serengeti is in Africa. Oh, in Africa, okay, good, I'm finished. No, if somebody tells me in Africa, I say, okay, well, where is Africa? So Africa is in this, I don't know, whether east to southeastern part of the whatever, the planet. Say, well, where is that? So I'm asking myself, because I don't want to just take some answer. I want to come to my answer. I want to come to truth, where I know without doubt, there is no doubt. Now I know. I know this answer to be true. So I asked that question, where is the subject and the object? And if you contemplate this question, you will arrive that you have to do it for your own. You have to do your own contemplation. You will arrive to the unidimensionality, let's say, or maybe the non-dimensionality. Let me just, since I said unidimensionality, of consciousness. You're going to come to the screen of consciousness. That basically the subject and the object are appearing at zero distance of I, at zero distance of consciousness. They're appearing in the non-dimensionality of consciousness. And this is when the subject and the object merge into consciousness, into the I. So I is all subjects and all objects. I, via the contemplation that we just did, is the reality of all seeming subject and object. The reason why I'm saying seeming is because I want to clarify that there isn't a separate reality of a subject and a separate reality of an object and a separate reality of consciousness. There is only one reality, one field, one screen, which is the reality of consciousness. And so the seeming subject and object are their substance. They come to consciousness. So then the impression, or the dualistic impression, the dualism, the seeming dualism of subject perceiving object is resolved in my contemplation. And I come to the certainty that all I know is myself. As lions, as gazelles, as bodily sensations, as thoughts, and as consciousness. So I know myself as consciousness, and the way I know myself as consciousness is via the simple question of, do I know that I am conscious? And the answer is yes. And then, am I conscious of being conscious? Yes. What is the shining light of consciousness? It is consciousness. What is it that is conscious of being conscious? Is consciousness. To what does the consciousness aspect of consciousness belong to? It belongs to consciousness. And I am conscious. So the consciousness aspect of belongs to consciousness, belongs to I, is I. So subjects and objects and trees and feelings and thoughts and emotions and oceans and waves and butterflies and
Mm. Mm. I was wondering, the yoga that we talked about recently, last Thursday, I think. Does that what I'm kind of thinking, does that type of letting go, that type of clarifying, does that diminish the veil that causes this buying into the subject object
Mm-hmm.
is outside myself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
impression?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it, what exactly is that, is that yoga clearing up,
Mm-hmm.
that expanding, relax?
There is there are impressions, me impressions that continue to arise
Mm-hmm.
uh, after the understanding that I am the self. Of course, they will arise in a diminishing fashion, but they will continue to arise.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also a background um, a background veil that's at the feeling level,
Mm-hmm.
a background sense of me that I am sitting here. So there is the background sense of me that's at the feeling level, and there are me impressions that are triggered by various world situations, by various events uh, that are hidden within the sensory layers of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a whole, there is a yoga that turns its attention to the sensory level and sort of opens all the gates. Let's say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using metaphoric language because there are no gates.
Mm-hmm.
It opens all the floodgates
Mm-hmm.
and allows the experience, or invites, let's say, the experience of being expanded in the entire space
Mm-hmm.
and all sensations dissolving and expanding in the space, and the body expanding in the space of consciousness, the space of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of a falling back, like a floating, falling back impression
Mm-hmm.
at the sensory level into vast space, but without a concern about a landing space or without a concern about any falling object. It is an expansion into the space of awareness. So it's turning one's attention to a bodily impression, because our bodily impression that arise, some are very neutral, like for example an itch, and some are not so neutral, like a contraction out of a thought about something that I must do that I didn't do, or something that I failed at, or these are psychological contractions. They're bodily sensations that do not seem, yes, that do not seem, they do not seem to be neutral, because there is a me dimension into space. There is me into space, into the past and into the future. But still, if you turn your attention just to the bodily sensation aspect of this contraction, so you turn your attention to, at the sensory level, at the feeling level, to that contraction, to that sensation. And you invite the sensation, and you invite yourself to notice the vast openness that's surrounding this seemingly contracted sensation. And you invite the release of that sensation, the relaxation of that sensation into the entire space, the space of awareness. These yogas are inevitable, really. At some point, you will come to them on your own in your contemplation. But it's very helpful for you to also be invited with your teacher or your friend that can guide you through these yogas, because they refer directly to, at the experiential level, at the feeling level, to the experience of consciousness.
Something I'm curious about is this yoga, and what you're describing is a letting things out, letting the tension out. But then the body also has a world around it. Maybe there's sirens, the hospital car, the police.
Is it around it? Here is a siren right now. Yes?
What distance from I?
Is it around it, or is it within it?
So that releasing includes releasing that, as instead of being
It's better to do these together than to talk about them.
Okay.
It's not really in a releasing. When we say releasing, what matters is to have the experience that that there is a certain guidance, but it's at the experiential level. It's not at the mental level. So it's not like releasing, because what is releasing what? What is releasing what? So there is. So.
No, I hear that.
Let's say it's a noticing that whatever arises at the sensory level, yes, arising in a vast space, and in a way inviting. The reason I'm saying inviting, because there is a habit to rigidify this object, to invite this impression to sort of relax into the space that's there. It's all metaphoric, because the contraction is an imaginary. It's an imaginary experience, because the self never contracts, and there is no other reality besides the self. So what is it that's contracting?
Yeah, exactly.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's the oxymoron. But at the same time, we are in the dream conversation.
Yes.
So we have to carry it through.
Yes.
We have to be careful how we're carrying it through, not to be feeding all sorts of practices to the practitioner, because there is no practitioner, and there is no practice.
Yes, I see.
So it's a little tricky in talking about it.
Yeah. But I see that concern about the outs. It's like I was conceptualizing it as something tight in here wants to let go, but what about the stuff coming in, adding to the contraction? Like a startle response or whatever.
Well, there are two aspects to, for example, like a siren, hearing a siren, or you mentioned that. At the physical level, there is a certain degree of decibel that the ears and the brain, they have a range of comfort, and are beyond a certain range of sound, for example. Then the vibrations they interfere with the organism, and then the organism, will experience physical pain, for example, or great discomfort. So there is an actual physiological aspect that has to do with the instrument, the body-mind instrument. And then there is a psychological dimension, which is what I like and what I don't like, and I don't like to be bothered, I don't like to be disturbed, etc. There is the psychological dimension, which is it has different quality. So there are disturbances that are psychological, and there are disturbances that are physical. Yes, for example, a toothache is a physical disturbance. Yeah, and being bothered by I don't like my neighbor. Whenever I think about him or her, I freak out. I want to kill them. That's a psychological disturbance. Yes. Now they both have they're both neutral sensation.
Neutral,
meaning it's a sensation. It's a sensation. When I'm having a toothache, there's a sensation. There's a sensation, a peak sensation, but it's a sensation.
What are you talking about?
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna ignore that. So there is a sensation, yes. Okay. Same thing when I'm being disturbed by my thoughts about my neighbor. I'm feeling, I don't know, maybe it's in my face or in my chest, this heat, this raging heat. That's a sensation. Yes? Yes, sure. Plus there is a story that I don't like my neighbor, when they're a schmuck. They have a story, and all sorts of stories to confirm that. So, coming back to things that are coming into my space that are disturbing me, everything that appears in the space of awareness. Yes? Can you agree to that? And when you say something is coming in from the outside, you're basically saying that something is appearing in awareness.
You talking about spiders? No, because I've just had a massive one. I don't know what you're on about.
Is there a way to shut this? Who is that? Let me see. I'm not sure who that is.
What?
I'm going to ignore that. Okay. So back to everything that appears.
Is no one else allowed to talk apart from you?
You're welcome to. You're welcome to jump in there.
Yes.
From my point of view.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Only if you have a question, Jess, URL, or whoever is there, you're welcome to ask your question as soon as I finish with Ananda. Yes.
But you've been talking for hours, so no one else can speak.
Oh, okay.
You've been just going on for about an hour.
Okay, well let's do you mind, Ananda? It seems that this person has a, okay, so I'm with you. I'm with you. Right. I'm with you, ma'am. Or miss. I don't know who you are because I only see Jess. So go ahead.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's all I was asking. Like, what's this conversation about? And then I'll know what you're on about, and I'll listen. Okay, so if you don't know, maybe it's not for you. If it doesn't resonate for you, you'd have no idea what we're talking about. Because I've just come back from the shop, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
I've gone
no problem.
I've gone to the shop.
So I'm going to eject you because it doesn't seem that you belong here. So maybe a different group may be better suited for you. Okay, back to the person who is interested in shopping, and I don't know. I mean, okay. I sort of lost track of.
I'm sometimes a little concerned about talking about something that might not interest everybody that's on here. Oh
yes. If everybody is welcome to to come and leave as they want, or to have a, a question or just anything that is. But the way we conduct this is, as long as we are in a conversation around a certain question that's relevant, not about shopping, or then I'm going to continue until we come to a certain place of we're ready to move on.
Well, what we were just saying was, this is great, and wherever we stop, I have lots to.
Okay, so
go.
let's pause for now. But if you have a question that you can reformulate, because I lost track of where we were talking about. Just to sum up, like concerning the yogas, it's really better to address this topic when we are together in retreat or in some sort of meditation meeting. Then we can go into them, but this does not mean that we cannot also address questions concerning the yogas here.
Okay.
I'm just adding that as a note, not as an objection to the question. Okay.
But this the subtle point. It keeps occurring to me that the one thing that I really care about, in a way, is I have no question about myself being I, and aware and the awareness, and then this impression or appearance of an outer world that is somehow.
Well, the outer world that's appearing to you is not that outer. It's not so outer, so much so as outer as you imagine it to be.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
It may be more inner than outer.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love the example of the dream and the dream state.
I mean, you contemplate that everything that you perceive it in the non-dimensionality of consciousness. It appears in the formlessness of consciousness, and its substance is the consciousness that knows it. So when you're touching a chair or a tree, you're experiencing a sensation. And then the mind says, oh, I'm touching a tree, an object out there. But in fact, your experience is that you're experiencing your sensation. And you're experiencing simultaneously your thought, which says, oh, there is a tree out there. But the thought is not out there. And your sensation is not out there. So it could be that this outward world is not so outwardly than you think. It may be more of an inner world than an outer world. Actually, I don't even like to refer to the terms outward and inward, because there is really no. You say, like in your house, you say the yard is outside and the living room is inside, and there is a wall that divides them. But in our experience, when you're speaking of outward and inward, what is the dividing line?
And then that makes me think, too, that when I say my perception, I touch the tree. And when I say it's my perception, actually it's just perception.
Yeah, it's just perception, but it is I that perceive this perception.
But not the small subject, me.
There is no small subject.
Oh. Yeah.
There is, when you look for the small subject, you don't find it.
And
I experience my experience. Yes, it is I. But there is no small subject. It's I consciousness. There is no problem with that. I had lunch. I ate mango. Now a couple of hours ago, it was yummy. I consciousness is what's speaking. And of course, when you talk about what ate the mango, it's the body. So I say, I ate the mango. What's more correct to say, but it's really ridiculous to be speaking this way. But what's more correct, what's more true, is that I was the awareness, I was the witness of this experience, this sensation. But if you look at like the reality of your experience is not story. The reality of your experience is right here, right now, this moment, and that is not a time dimension. But thought comes and says, okay, we had satsang and I talked with Ananda, you see, which is fine. There are images on the screen, a story on the screen. But consciousness is the entire field, is the entire screen. It's not some things are happening. Images are happening on the screen, but nothing in fact is happening, because the reality of all these images is the non-happening, which is consciousness. It's just like in your dream, there are also things that seem to be happening. They're the happening, I ate a mango, I spoke with Ananda, blah, blah. There was a big flying elephant and butterflies and triple-headed dragons, whatever. Yes? But in fact, all of this was happening in the non-happening of the sleeper, of consciousness.
Yeah.
But we have no problem with talking about things happening, the weather and so on and so forth. But that's a relative conversation, which is okay, because once when you know yourself, then you know the non-happening. You know the eternity and the infinity of the self. You see? And you do not mistake yourself to be an event in time and space. And that's where the misery is. Mm-hmm. The misery is in mistaking myself to be a form, to be a man or a woman in time and space, and things are happening to me. Oh my God. I hope something good is happening to me.
Something just occurred to me that it seems that there's sometimes a lot of empathy in a more awakened person. Empathy. Mm-hmm. And it just occurs, it's like, you see, oh, you have a stomach ache. You ate the mangoes were too green, mm-hmm. and you have a stomach ache. And you feel for the person, so that's empathy. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not your own body, And I'm just saying it's because the I and thou even is
that may happen.
Attenuated.
It may or it may not happen.
I don't mean like extrasensory perception or something. I just mean.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand, but it may or may not happen.
Okay. Just an aside-ish thing.
Yeah.
But this is all great. Thank you.
Okay, Ananda. So if there are any other questions from anybody?
I just have to say it's pretty cool to be talking with somebody who's not generating the illusion, the illusions that we've been talking about. It's cool, very cool. And Just what a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful thing to have a spaciousness and freedom instead of distress.
Yes. Okay, well, very lovely to be with you all. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Yeah.
Thank you, Magdi.
Goodbye, everybody. Okay, Julie. Bye.
Bye.
Isaac. Okay, Solomon, Ananda. See you.